Good morning. My name is Candace Prince. I'm with Green Hope Project. I'm so happy to have Michael Reynolds with us. He is the architect, creator of the Earthships. He's coming to us from Taos, New Mexico. And on that note, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Reynolds.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm assuming everybody can hear me. Let me know if you can.
You're good.
It's a pleasure to be here. We're going to talk here about what we call biotecture. It's achieving sustenance through encounter of Earth phenomena. So Earth phenomena are wind, rain, sun, gravity, condensation, thermal mass, lightning, rainbows, all aspects of biology and physics. We encounter these to provide our sustenance, as opposed to getting it through political systems and corporation systems and infrastructure and so on, because we're these days having problems with all of those on many levels. So we're looking at that, and this cartoon here is really exactly what we're talking about. I mean, we're dealing with current dogma and we're all responding to it, but there are other ways. And our thing that we call the Earthship concept is, one of many possibilities that we can simply walk towards, and that's all there is necessary. We have synthesized it down to looking at the human condition and seeing that there are 6 issues that have to be dealt with in the human condition. These are our needs, I call them. They are food, something to do with our sewage, something to do with our garbage, comfort without nuclear or coal-fired power, water, and electricity. These are the things that we must have. I mean, you might think you need a motorcycle or a TV. Well, these are things you want. Things for life, sustenance, to stay alive. There are 6 of them that we have found and observed all over the world after Holocausts, floods, hurricanes, whatever, and after our own Holocaust here in this country. We need these things. During COVID, we needed these things. Well, a lot of people didn't have them during COVID. A lot of people were short on food. A lot of people were short on electricity. A lot of people's pipes froze. We want to provide these things directly to people via encounter of Earth phenomena. And a creature that does that is the tree. And we look at the tree, it provides its leaves falling on the ground and rotting to make new soil for other trees. It has an infrastructure, it has a piping system that goes into the ground and collects nutrients and moisture and water. It spits out oxygen and takes in CO2, and creatures like us take in that oxygen and spit out the CO2. So there's a symbiotic thing going on there between trees and the other creatures on the planet. And then, of course, the tree does its photosynthesis through its leaves, which is much like our photovoltaic cells. So the tree, what I'm saying here is the tree is my model of what I want to be like myself, of what I think we should be like to enhance this planet rather than destroy it. And you never hear anybody say there are too many trees. A lot of trees together is a beautiful forest. We go there for relaxation and healing ourselves. Well, then you got these things. what are these things even doing here? Sometimes I ask myself that. And you put a bunch of them together and you've got this. This is what we do to this planet. And this is what we do to this planet. This is how we get our energy. We make it with a nuclear power plant or a coal-fired power plant, and then we deliver it like this. When I really look at it, this is very archaic. This is what I call inspiration. This is inspiration for me to find something better for myself, but obviously for everybody else too. Another inspiration. This is what we do with our sewage into lagoons, into rivers, into streams. It's inspiration. I want to find something else. This is what we do with our garbage. It's inspiration. I want to find something else. This is what we do with our garbage. This is a natural resource of this planet. This is a natural resource of this planet. Bottles, the same story, a natural resource of this planet. Plastic bottles, same story. We want to put all that together and create spaces like this for us to live in. This is a building in our Earthship community. It's basically a biocell. It's a no power comes in. It's totally self-contained. It's a Amazon rainforest with no utilities needed. This is possible. This is the outside of that building. It's called the Phoenix. Here's the inside of it again. The Phoenix is a flamboyant example of all of these 6 points being put to use. This is a standard model Earthship in Montana. Inside, it's like that. So it's like a botanical cell, botanical gardens. Another Earthship in the 10,000 feet up in the mountains in New Mexico, same story. Outside, it looks like this. Inside, it's a botanical rainforest. So the history of this, how it started, was in the early 70s, I made a house out of beer cans. I did it because there were beer cans everywhere, and we were wasting trees. There were TV shows about clear-cutting timber for housing. So I said, let's use something we throw away. I was called a disgrace to the architectural community for doing this, but I was building out of garbage. But I did it anyway. I built buildings out of garbage and developed ways to make it viable. A lot of the first ones like this are pretty crazy. But then we started adding greenhouses to them and using them for different shapes and tires, cans, bottles, making buildings out of garbage, trying to make what we call garbage a building material. And so that, garbage is just a word. It's just a definition. We invented it, really. It didn't exist before humans did. And we started making buildings that incorporated a collection of energy with sun and wind. And we even collected rainbows. But we were experimenting with building with garbage and collecting energy from the sky. And we ended up putting all this together in a building about 33 years ago that we called the Earthship. We called it an Earthship because it's a vessel on this planet. It is not a house that's hooked up to the utilities. Here is the very first Earthship. I still live in what we call the very first Earthship. Here's $1 million one for the movie guy, Dennis Weaver, in Colorado. Here is one that we wrote 3 books, Earthship Volume 1, 2, and 3. People bought them for $25 or so and built their own Earthships. That's what we wanted. We wanted to put housing back into the hands of the people. We built a community up in the mountains of near Taos, New Mexico, at 10,000 feet, banana trees growing and people staying warm without a nuclear power plant. We started getting into communities then. We built one called the Greater World near Taos, New Mexico. And here we made the lots circular so that a lot of the land, half of the land actually, is still left for the creatures, the elk, the sandhill crane, the lizards, the snakes, the sage, the birds, we think the rest of the world should be developed this way by us just living on half of it, not completely concreting and asphalting all of it and eliminating the animals. This concept works. Here is a herd of elk walking through our community not too long ago. They do this. We moved in with the animals. We didn't displace them. Here is a rather sculptural version of this in the community, the Earthship community, but it all boils down to what we call you could call it the generic or the standard Earthship. We have 2 or 3 models of the standard Earthship. This one is called the global model. It's housing as an independent global living vessel on this earth. Notice these all are similar because of what it takes to encounter the environment, to encounter the phenomena of the planet. They're similar, but they take on the characteristics of Montana or New Mexico or whatever. So again, the 6 points, we go into these, and we have an academy that talks about all these with courses. We have the custom model Earthship. That's what we call the Phoenix, which is, or showed you pictures early on there. It is a botanical gardens that people live in. The standard Earthship is one of our standard models. Well, now it's global, but we also have one called the Encounter. We also have a new one called the Unity. These are standard, like Toyota Corolla, Chevy Nova, standard models that people can afford. They look pretty normal on the inside. Then we have the economy model, the smart car of Earthships. We have to play with that. We have to make this available to every different financial strata. Inside the smart car of Earthships, it's not a bad building. It's certainly better than living in a teepee. People tend to think that to be sustainable, you have to live in a teepee in the mountains. This is showing that living sustainably is as good, if not better, than not. So we go into quickly each one of these 6 points. Building with natural and recycled materials. We use tires as building bricks. We pack them with earth and pack them with mud and cans and end up plastering the walls. There is what tire walls can look like. This is really not garbage. This is transformation. This is alchemy, essentially. Tires are fantastic in compression. This is an 8-yard loaded concrete truck on the tire wall. Tire walls are aimed at people being able to do it themselves. And this is in Ithaca, New York. This is in Tierra del Fuego, southern tip of Argentina, a retaining wall with tires pounded with gravel. These are bottles. Cut the necks off, tape them together, make bottle bricks, make stained glass. Beautiful and free, and something we throw away and will last forever. Plastic bottles, same story. Plastic bottles and glass bottles. Cans, aluminum cans. Aluminum cans and bottles. This is like a cathedral building that we're playing with. A garden wall, a bridge made of beer cans. It's unbelievable what you can do. This is a resort in Jamaica made of beer cans and bottles. We even go to dumps and get parts of washing machines, refrigerators, and stove and use them as shingles. And they are perfect for that. And yet otherwise they just they sit there and rot or have to be buried or whatever. I even did body work on my Mercedes with these parts. We built the roof of our new classroom. Notice all these yellow ones. This is a school bus recycled into being the roof of our classroom. In Puerto Rico, after the hurricane, this is a gazebo in the middle of a villa we did there. These are cars from the junkyard across the street. Bottle caps, cardboard for insulation. So what we have is what we call natural materials, stone, mud, wood, but all these other things are just as natural. They are natural to this planet. The plastic bottles, the glass bottles, etc. So that is building with natural and recycled materials. That's what to do with our garbage. Now, let's look at the thermal solar heating and cooling. It's really, normally a house is set on the earth. We're just tucking the house into the earth, wrapping it with insulation and bringing in the sun. That's really all there is to it. We're tapping into the temperature of the earth below the surface. That's just a diagram. We bring in the sun to our thermos bottle, essentially, and we capture it. There is a whole course on this, the physics of this, in our academy. Here is a diagram of the global model Earthship, the low winter sun coming in, heating the space, it goes into the mass. We have a course explaining the physics of this. At night, the heat leaks out, and the heat that was stored in the mass leaks into the room. Simple as that. It's basic physics. Heat goes to the cooler place. We have lectures and examples of this in our academy. Summertime, sun is higher. Doesn't make it into the living space, heats the greenhouse up, it has ventilation coming out the top, creates natural convection, sucking air through tubes to create natural convection, movement of air. The hot air loses its heat to the burial. Heat goes to the cooler place, and you're bringing in cool air naturally. This is the look of this as it's being constructed. Here is a construction shot showing this, what we call thermal wrap around the tire wall with the cisterns on the outside. This is the greenhouse hallway, garden, sewage treatment space. We call it a buffer zone. Now, this is a graph made by a guy doing his doctorate in wanted to disprove Earthships, actually. But the point is, it shows that the temperature, here's the high temperature over 100 degrees, here's the low temperature over minus 20, under minus 20 in our area. Here's the temperatures in the Earthship, staying right at around 70 degrees Fahrenheit. In the tropical zone of the Earth, you don't need to go to these extremes. So we have a model that we've developed for it. It's basically the same types of things, only you don't have to be so severe with the heating aspect and trapping the heat. You, in fact, want to get rid of it. So this is a place in Indonesia called Earthship Island, where we built some tropical versions of the Earthship. In Haiti, we built a tropical version. And we ended up with what we call our tropical model that we have. It just consumes garbage. Here are your tires. These are can walls that berm up the earth against a potato chip ferro-cement dome. Here is another tire with a bottle wall on it. Then we sack up non-organic garbage, plastics, whatever, in plastic bags, crunch them down, creates a natural insulation wrapping this mass building, cardboard insulation in the roof, and we end up with a building that just simply eats garbage. And here it is in Haiti, and we're making a school in Haiti as we speak. Solar and wind electricity. This is a way to deal with our electricity without the grid. So solar and wind electricity, a lot of people understand that. We have vertical axis windmills, we have solar panels. We're using all of it in conjunction. Vertical axis windmills have proven themselves to us to be like the hare and the tortoise. They don't make as much power as quickly as the others, but they spin longer without maintenance. And we've done a lot of experimenting with that. We have what we call a dynasphere. It's a vertical axis windmill that these types have spun for 22 years without maintenance. And there it is. Noise is simply the wind in the camera. They're pretty much silent. That's another good feature about the dynasphere. Now, water. We have to use water. we need water as humans. So we try to collect it, water harvesting. Our buildings have roofs that direct water to cisterns. There's a whole course and study of this in the Earthship Academy. We direct the water to cisterns. The cisterns are usually underground in darkness, so the water doesn't grow algae. The roofs of the global model Earthship are sloped to gutters that take the water to the cisterns. There it is in reality. And here it is in the tropical areas, the roofs directing water to cisterns. Not rocket science, but it shows what goes on. Simply collecting the water into a gutter. The gutter takes it to what we call a scupper and silk cat, which is coming up right here. And the scupper and silk cat takes the water, the particles out of the water, and goes through the gravel and into the system. And there it is in still. We're simply directing the rainwater to the cistern. We organize it with what we call the WOM, the water organizing module. It filters and pumps the water into a pressure tank. Simple as that. Again, we have a whole course on all the idiosyncrasies of how we do that. Contained sewage, once you use the water, it becomes sewage. We take it into what we call botanical cells. We run the water through the botanical cells. The plants oxygenate it and clean it up, and we recollect it to flush the toilet with. It's as simple as that. We recirculate it all day long because the botanical cell is just a filter. There's a blow-up drawing of the botanical cells. Again, we have a whole course studying all the idiosyncrasies and the biology of this. And it results in, here's your living room. Basically, if you want to put it in the blunt way, we're running sewage through the living room. But it shows you that sewage is not bad. It's how we treat it that's bad. Sewage is no different than a leaf dropping on the ground to make soil. So all of the Earthships have a jungle inside of them. You're living with this jungle. And of course, this jungle can produce food. In short, the concept is this is a very conventional sewage plumbing diagram going to a septic and a drain field. Ours is just simply loops off of that. So we inherently have a conventional system within ours. You can have a foot of snow outside and banana trees growing inside, giving you bananas, giving you food. You know, I'm sure the people in the cities during COVID that were waiting in line for sacks of food would appreciate food growing in their living room. So every Earthship is producing plants and food, which at the same time are cleaning up your gray water to make it so you can flush with it. This is just a little pump panel that does that. We have a whole course on all of the aspects of this, because it turns into black water then and goes into the toilet, goes into a septic, and it goes into an outdoor botanical cell. And in our dry, arid mesa, where we work mainly with our home base, here is the Blackwater system many years ago, and here it is today. We're simply turning the desert into green, not by pumping water in up from the aquifers, but by our use of water from the sky. And it's even attracting people, things like this migratory owl that lives there now and wouldn't normally live in that desert. Then you get into food production, which is another aspect of the same thing. Food production, all of these foods are grown in Earthships. This is the Phoenix, the one where we grow a lot of the food, but every one of them grows food, as well as we produce tilapia inside the building. Melons, cucumbers, squash, peppers, tomatoes, strawberries, all of these things. Broccoli is a big one. These things, root crops. We even can and dry the food. Tomatoes, salads, mushrooms. We grow mushrooms. Chocolate. We've done chocolate. Figs, melons, cantaloupe, pineapples. We've done pineapples. Best artichokes I've ever eaten. Papaya. eggplant, grapes. This we have parakeets flying and cockatoos, birds flying around in this rainforest. And this one we had a problem with. He eats the white seedless grapes. We had to have a discussion with him on that. Peppers, bananas. Here is a study of all these foods being tested, showing that they are below measurable in E. coli. Because always people ask, what can you really eat out of these kind of planters? Yes, the anaerobic processes and the process of going through the plant roots takes care of any issues you may have. This is a kudzu plant from the Virginias in that area. It grows like crazy. It takes over forests. They don't want it. We want it in our greenhouse because it's edible and it keeps up with your appetite. This is the proof of what I'm saying.
So Elijah is going to fish in the tilapia pond at the Phoenix to illustrate that you can catch a fish out of the pond in your own home and cook it and eat it. And that's what we're going to try to do. So you have to kind of let it float up there a little bit like that. Float in this way a little. Okay.
Oh, that's a darn good fish. Whoa.
Jeanette, just how quickly did you catch that fish, Elijah?
I'm not sure. About a minute.
About 30 seconds.
30 seconds.
Justin knows how to do this.
Alright.
Time to eat.
His head's still alive looking at me. Let's go cut some stuff out of the garden. Let's go get some rosemary. This is the watercress, right? Those are ready. Let's go back in. Here we're wilting some veggies. And a little salt.
So that is an example of what can be done. COVID comes along, economic crisis comes along, your own home can feed you. And of course, this home also has chickens. They have their little Earthship nests up here and they lay eggs. This is called the Chicken Hilton. We've done schools this way. And the reason I like to do schools this way is because the young kids, when they walk in the door of an Earthship school, their education begins. This is one in Sierra Leone. This is one in Uruguay. This is one in Argentina. Easter Island. Excuse me. Music school in Easter Island. And then, just to look back here, the Phoenix Earthship is the custom version of this. It is a custom application. It is a rainforest. It is a little paradise. It's used as an Airbnb to educate people, to give them a chance to see what this is like. It's much better, living there is worth 1,000 words. It's worth 1,000,000 words. The Phoenix Earthship. And the standard Earthship, the global model, that's the tire work on it. And there's the finished product. And the standard global model Earthship we've done them all over the world. Japan, Holland, France, and Canada, everywhere. Here's in Skeety Island in Canada. We put these up in 5 weeks with 60 people, and they take care of themselves on this island and their owners. Wyoming, Brighton, England. In Brighton, England, they got approved, but we broke ground and discovered dinosaur bones, so this one didn't get built. But the global model Earthship is the standard version of this, but now we've added a couple of standard models too that I'll talk about. But the standard global model Earthship is a result of putting all of this together. And we have split level versions of it. Here's one in Colorado. It is housing as an independent global living vessel, the global model Earthship. Urban application, we have drawings for one, and it's been through the council 3 times, but I don't know if the owner's going to get the money together. It's a 6-story tower with an Earthship with Earthships on top of it. There's 3 towers and 3 split level Earthships in Midtown Manhattan, Lower East Side. Then here is that version. Here's another version of that for a ski valley, Taos Ski Valley. We don't think this will get built, but it was presented as a more urban, tighter, denser version of this. Now we have the economy Earthship, the smart car Earthship. This is that version when it's on the order of a tiny house, only it's an Earthship, 2-room tiny house Earthship. Here's the section of it. And there's 2 duplexes of the tiny house Earthship. They have all the same 6 points addressed, but in a much more petite way. Here is a tiny house Earthship in Ushuaia, southern tip of Argentina. An economy wood version of the simple survival Earthship. We did one of these in Canada for a woman with 5 kids. We did it in 14 days and gave it away to her. Colonies, you can do colonies. The thing is about colonies, you don't need to put in the infrastructure. Billions of dollars worth of infrastructure would be needed, water, power, sewage to build a development like this. I could start building this development tomorrow right here with a truckload of tires, because each building is its own infrastructure. It encounters the phenomena of the planet. This is designed for Turkey to make a village. You can ride your bike all the way through the lower part of the buildings. Scotland, demonstrations in Scotland, Bolivia, Japan, Mexico, the Sioux Reservation in South Dakota, Belgium, Honduras, Arizona, Mexico, Spain, Czech Republic, Germany, New Zealand, Canada, New Zealand, Hawaii, Bonaire, Jamaica, Nicaragua, India, after the tsunami, Guatemala, China, Haiti. So this is where it can go all over the world. I want to give you one more little video here to show the application in Haiti. And so we went, and again, we were just thinking that we'd be lucky to do recon and maybe find a place to do something. Well, it turns out that Grassroots United is 10 minutes from the airport, and they have a little compound,
and they provided us with a place to do it. So we show up there, and within an hour of landing, we're pounding tires. And one thing led to another, and we saw that we're going to get something done here. So we sent Marita out to get more tires, and she then the next day brought 40 people from one of the tent camps, and they ranged in age from 4 to 50. We ended up saying, oh my God, we might even get a building going here. So I bought some materials down there, some rebar and some cement. Marita took a couple of dozen of the kids and went out within a half a mile of the compound and gathered all the plastic bottles that we needed. And we did a simplified version of our hut design with a door and a window and a ferrocement vaulted roof that is very lightweight amount of cement, but lots of steel. So this is a very earthquake resistant design here and hurricane resistant. The bottom line is we were going for a recon, and in 4.5 days, due to just synchronicity and connections working out and so on, we ended up with a 12-foot diameter building built. Another interesting point was I just got my arm out of a cast from rotator cuff surgery. I was crippled. I couldn't do much. And Brian and Mike got the shits and vomiting to the point of almost dying. So yeah, we were in dire straits, and this still happened.
Yeah.
The reason it happened was the Haitians. They could do every aspect of it. They could pound the tires, they could lay the bottles. They did it all, learned it all, and we're clear that this can be replicated. So far, we nosed around down there a little bit. There's lots of tents, there's some container things, but really there's nothing for the people yet. This is something that people can get their hands into. They can be building houses for themselves and each other and so on. I mean, this can really be way beyond just shelter. It can be a sort of an economic base or a currency for Haiti itself. So everybody that gave us anywhere from 10 to $100, thank you very much. Here's how it was used. We got a little over $7,000 in donations, and we fronted another $3 or so grand. We bought tickets for 4 people, we got shots for 4 people, and we bought materials. We bought them lunch every day that they worked for us. There were no fees, no salaries, no wages. We are talking direct use of money. Money goes straight to a building in Haiti and transportation to get there. Nothing goes through any bureaucratic salaries and commissions. You know, how do you track your $500 that you donated through some agency or whatever? You know, it just goes, and you get a little postcard or something. This, you've got a picture of where your money went, every dollar of it. And if we didn't raise any more money, I'm just going to the bank and get it. I'll borrow it, I'll finance it. Because now we're going to go back down mid-October and do a finishing hit on this thing and make it collect its own water, contain and treat its own sewage with a little outdoor courtyard and a flush toilet, and have its own power system. With the most important part is Haitians from the tent camps helping us and learning. You may as well call this building a demonstration unit, because what they're going to do is bring people in to this compound and show it to them. And of course, the ones that got to work on it are going to be talking about how to do it and probably starting to do it once they can get a place. Where we'll go next for land will be where it can be for the people. We're even thinking of, like, can we tear down a few tents in Tent City and throw up some of these? If we got a windfall of funding, we would start a little village, and then we just go back and forth to Haiti for the next few years. We'd start an Earthship academy. I mean, there's thousands and thousands of people down there living 12 in a tent. There's no end in sight to what we can do if we get the money. The thing is, this, in 4.5 days, this hit to the very heart of the people that are living in the tent cities, and it brought them out, and they participated in this, and this was a real thing, not a hypothetical thing. We were working with them, they were working with us. We weren't a bunch of whiteys going down there and making something that we wouldn't live in ourselves, but trying to give them some charity. I would love to live in the building that we built down there. I love that little building. And so we got together eyeball to eyeball with the Haitian people, with no bureaucrats or politicians in between us. And that is the key. We're sharing what we've learned over 40 years, and they're giving us a lot of light back. From the little kids to the older people, they got inspired by this. They got lit up by this. And we got lit up by the fact that they got lit up. It was an outrageous situation. The last day when they were waiting in line to hold our hands and saying things like, if I have to die to get Earthships to Haiti, then I'm ready to die right now. And may God make you live a lot longer so that you can continue doing this. You know, not one of us were dry-eyed.
Michael, someone wants to give you a kiss.
Get dirty. Thank you. Merci.
Everybody that donated time, guidance, coordination, or money, thank you from the bottom of my heart. We're going to go back and more.
So we did go back, and we turned that little hut into a villa with a cistern, a toilet, and a shower. And that design was aimed at replication, so that we could build villages down there, and it works. They're using it as an Airbnb down there now. The NGO is. So this little design has been replicated in Chile, and by students of ours, and we've also gone to Malawi doing something similar. This is the middle of Africa, and the Philippines. We made two of our units face each other to create a wind foil, and we did that after the typhoon in the Philippines. We called it the Philippines Wind Ship, and they use it as a wind shelter now from the typhoons. And we've also played around with what we call a zero-cost hut, which is, there are people we've met around the world, most of them actually, they don't have any money. So we have to deal with this. Tires are free. Standing dead palms are free. Bamboo is free. The membrane that they use for the billboard signs is waterproof and free because they change them and throw them away. So we built what we call a zero-cost hut. There is the little Hobbit hut in the Philippines, and we gave it away to this guy and his kids, and then some other people helped us do it, and they did it in Fiji, and then other people helped them do it in Vanuatu, and now they're doing this in Vanuatu without us. This is what we want. We want people to be able to do this themselves, and they are, but we want to increase that aspect of it. We want everybody to have sustenance on this planet, have access to it. You know, we're trying to create a yellow brick road to sustenance. This is the Vanuatu version. It's a lot better than their blue tarp with 4 posts that blows away in every typhoon. So we're talking decentralization is what we're talking. Housing is utilities. There's the custom version, the standard version, the economy version. And the Earthship Academy promotes this, teaches it. We are located in New Mexico. We're talking about branches around the world so that people don't have to travel. But with Zoom and everything, we have an online academy that is maybe going to be more relative to today's situation. We have an app that presents a lot of things. It's an app on your phone. It even has drawings on it for under $10, sets of drawings. We got in Indonesia an island given to us, sort of. We built tropical Earthships on Earthship Island, and it was a learning experience. We took 100 people to an island that had nothing on it, and we built tropical Earthships. It was a lot of fun, and it was a real education, like starting on another planet. We tried it in the mountains of Colombia. We're looking for remote places, but it really needs to apply everywhere. This is even furniture made of tires. And then after the hurricane in Puerto Rico, we made a villa in Puerto Rico. It came out so good. We did it with an academy and field studies, and I call it Rivendell. You know, you can see why. It's a magical place made of garbage that is off of every grid. And in the coming earthquakes and windstorms that they had, when more than half the island was without power and without water, Rivendell had it. Rivendell takes care of people. The global model Earthship in New Mexico. Very typical looking inside. And the custom version, and the Botanical Gardens version, and the Earthship Academy. We did an academy recently, I guess it's been almost 2 years now, in Japan. It got approved in Japan. And here is a water catching Earthship that needs no nuclear power, and that's a biggie for them in Japan right now. And they want more. They want us to come back all over the world. And here is our classroom that we run our academies from. This is the classroom, and we have little lodgings on both sides of it. Now, where we have come is recently, as things get tighter and tighter, and inflation and the price of materials doubles in the last year or year and a half, we have what we call the Unity Earthship, which is the combination, the unification of everything we've learned over the years. And that's why we call it Unity, but we also call it Unity because it has the potential to unify people and planet, which must be done. A tree unifies trees and planet to the point where trees are the planet. You know, you can't imagine the planet without trees. I would like it to be so that you can't imagine the planet without people, that we give so much to this planet that we become this planet. And we can't do that unless we all join together to a common denominator and become one with this planet and one with each other. No more races, no more politics, no more rich people, poor people. We are people. And so the Unity is aimed at being the vessel that does this. The floor plan, it comes in 2-bedroom and 1-bedroom and 3-bedroom, and we're building it right now. I'm building it, I'm working on it. And that is where we are with Earthships today, what they are, why they are. And my current interpretation of it is we are simply trying to make a yellow brick road that people can simply stroll down toward a sustainable life. We don't want it to be hard. We want it to be easy. We don't want to have to convince them. We want to make the road itself entice them. We don't want to have to make advertising and promotion and promises and make it a business that makes billions of dollars. And we don't want that. We want people to have what it takes. Now, I have one other analogy here that I will make that explains what we're doing to myself. I imagine myself on there's about getting close to 8 billion people on this planet right now. I imagine myself on a bus with 80 people. Now, due to what I have been doing for the last 50 years, I know how to take care of myself. I really do. But I'm on this bus, so I know all the people on this bus are hungry. Everybody's starving on this bus. Because of what I know how to do, I have a 3-decker was bacon, lettuce, and tomato sandwich dripping with vegan mayo, and lose the bacon these days. But I have a beautiful sandwich that is moist and beautiful and tasty. And I'm on a bus with 79 other people that have nothing. How can I possibly enjoy that sandwich? Not from a moral standpoint, but from the standpoint of they're going to kill me for my sandwich. You know what I mean? It's just logical that they need this too. I can't enjoy it simply, not, like I say, not from a moral standpoint, but from a point of logic. They will simply fight me and each other to get some of this sandwich. So my best step forward is to make it in any way possible that I can for everybody on this bus to have access to this kind of a sandwich. Then they won't want mine. That's my security. That's what if all countries were to think that way? Rather than fight each other over the sandwich, let's make sure we've all got the sandwich. If we've all got the sandwich, then we got nothing to do but eat it and sing songs. You know what I mean? That's what we're trying to do, is make it so that we can relax and enjoy our sandwich. Because we, our company, me, we all live in Earthships. We all watched on TV as people were waiting in cars in lines for food, and people were sitting in their cars, turning the heaters on so their kids could stay warm. We're sitting there in 70 degrees, picking bananas and tangerines and spinach out of our greenhouses and eating, while people around the country in Texas, California are starving and killing themselves in their cars, because some people put their cars on in their garage to keep their kids warm and died. So I'm seeing how pathetic it is out there, and I'm seeing how easy it is to make a yellow brick road for everybody to walk down toward sustainability. So that's all I have to say. Any questions?
Yes, we do have several questions. Thank you so much, Mr. Reynolds. That was amazing. And so I'm really glad we did more than the 20 minutes we did on the kickoff, because it totally warranted all this extra information and these amazing videos. So one of the questions in the chat is a comment question. Veronica Cabral says, this is one of the ways we ensure all people have access to clean and safe housing without overburdening our planet. How do you scale up? Are international aid organizations buying into this new model?
Well, pretty much everywhere we do it, they want us to do more. We have figured out our own, we've had different companies try to fund us, and when they fund us, then they want to own the building. See, the building, like for instance, we had some major corporation try to fund us in Puerto Rico after the hurricane. Well, they wanted to, oops, did I lose you guys?
No, I just stopped the screen sharing for you.
Okay. So we had this corporation try to fund us, and they wanted to own the building. They wanted us to get a permit. They had all kinds of requirements that would have slowed us up, and we didn't want any. We didn't care who owned the building. We gave the building away to the locals there, and they're using it as a educational facility, a visitor center, so to speak. So funding is always got strings attached. So we figured out ways to have our students help us build and fund and combine education and building together. And so we're able to go, and now we're going to Haiti. They're coming up with some money for the materials, and we're funding with our student method all of the labor and tickets and everything. And it's kind of working. Now that's still slow. To answer your question, scaling up would require, you know, a government to say, okay, here's land, here is some funding, go for it. We've had funding. The government, the governor of New Mexico gave us $350,000 about 10 years ago to make a visitor center. Bill Richardson. He said, "You're on to something. We need to show it." We're ready for that, but we're not waiting for it. We're going and doing it as much as we can. I look at it as like, it's a virus. Strange word to use these days, but I look at it as a virus. We're trying to create the conditions that this virus can spread, and it should spread on its own. It should not be having TV commercials and billboards saying, do this and, do that. It should be spread by word of mouth. If you discover gold in your backyard, you don't have to put a newspaper ad take a newspaper ad out and say, I discovered gold. People will be tearing your fence down trying to get into your backyard because it will have traveled like wildfire from word of mouth. If something is right, that's the way it'll travel. And we're just doing it, talking about it, and it is growing. I do think it needs to grow faster.
Agreed. We do have several other questions in the chat, and we'll get back to them. We have one individual that's tuning in as they're traveling, and so he'd like to unmute and just ask you the question on the microphone. George, are you there?
Yes, I am. First of all, thank you for doing this. My question is, for those of us who are already established, with a house, a mortgage, things like that, aside from the yard things that we can do as far as farm gardening and things like that, the structure itself, if we were interested in taking some of these Earthship concepts into an existing home, I don't have solar panels yet or anything like that, but what would be your recommendation, or what would be the first steps into taking some of these ideas into an already established home? I mean, my home is a much older home, but so it does have room for improvement, but it's still along the lines of subscribing to Earthship ideals. Well,
My recommendation is via the online academy or the in-person academy, understand the 6 points and how we address them in the Earthship concept. They're simply 8th grade biology and physics. And then you can apply every single one of them to an existing home to some degree. Now, you may, due to the nature of your home and the location and the orientation, you may only succeed to make your home 50% sustainable, as opposed to damn near 100% sustainable for an Earthship. Or you may succeed at 65% or 75%. So the existing home does present you with limitations. But the way I look at that is, if we cut down our damage to this planet by 50%, that would be huge. That would be huge in every existing building. There's no way we're going to tear down every existing building and build Earthships. But our population is growing, so all new structures should address these 6 points. And existing structures should, the people that own them should understand the application of these 6 points, the 8th grade biology and physics, so that they can do what we call retrofit. You can retrofit your home to be more comfortable with less fuel, to harvest water, to harvest electricity, to grow food, and to treat its own sewage, and to use more of your own garbage rather than throwing it away in landfills. You can apply this to at least 50% by simply an understanding of the 6 points and how to address them.
Thanks for the question, George. I'm sure a lot of people had that. We have a pretty respectful group here, so I think it's safe to say that, and George says thank you, by the way, Michael. I think it's safe to say we can have some of you guys ask questions directly to Michael. Veronica, you did have a question about contractors. Do you want to mention that to him? About reusing, I think, without fear of...
Yes, thank you so much. This is so incredibly powerful. I am a property law lawyer, and I spend a lot of time out in the colonias, and my clients also buy inside the city, homes that are just falling apart. And I think these concepts are just so incredibly powerful. And even in my own experience, even just doing landscaping, there is just this aversion about using existing materials, right? So I had 800 pavers in the backyard that all of the contractors wanted to just take to the landfill instead of reusing them the way I wanted them to, until I found someone who was willing to work with them again. And I wanted to ask if in the US you've had, what kind of strategies you'd recommend for us to sort of change the culture. People are afraid of liability. They're afraid of reusing old things. And also sometimes it's easier because it requires less creativity. And so I was wanting to know if you've reached out to certain organizations or have strategies for us to change that culture of disdain for the old. Thank you.
You're definitely hitting a nerve there that is out there. A side note is the Unity building that we are building right now. A couple miles away, some people had an old wood slab fence and out of pine wood slabs, and it fell over from the wind. And they just wanted to pay somebody to clean it up and take it to the dump. Well, we cleaned it up and used it for the planking between the logs above me here in the picture. We used it to plank between the logs, and it was perfect and it's beautiful. And so, yeah, it took us time, but it took us time enough to make it at least as expensive as buying wood. But wood is going off the charts higher and higher. You shouldn't throw any wood away. You shouldn't throw anything away. You should reuse it. Always gather and use. And so the use of everything is, if you're doing it yourself, if you're involved in it yourself, it's much more practical. If you're paying a contractor to reuse pavers, he doesn't want to do it. Yeah, it's our whole world has been shaped by lawsuits. People are afraid of a lawsuit, so this becomes a law, and they don't want to touch anything used because they'll get sued. Well, and that has to do with our whole world has been shaped by money, by economy, and if you lose money or something, you try to sue people, and it makes a mess. It's why people need to become involved themselves in their own housing, or you need to take a little bit of the deity of money out of the equation. And so I'd say it is definitely a lot easier when it's hands-on and you're getting involved yourself. If the contractor doesn't want to use the pavers, then whoever owns the building, get some people together and use the pavers yourself. In other words, we don't need the professionals to do things for us. I mean, we need to get involved and do some things ourselves with our friends. Everybody's not physically adept to build themselves, but with your friends, with your family, we just start doing it. I call it leaning. You can design a crystallized program for what to do for these things, but it's much more effective just to lean into it, lean into anything you believe is necessary. Just start doing it, and ask questions later. And it is that, just like that cartoon I showed in the very beginning, all of those people on that plank holding down the person that's out over the abyss, if they just walk away toward using pavers, using scrap wood, building Earthships, making their own power, one at a time, they walk toward something else, dogma falls into the abyss.
Absolutely. Thank you, Vero. We have a question from JT.
Hi, Michael. I don't really have a question. I just want to tell you, thank you so much for everything that you believe in and standing on your beliefs to change the world. Because of you, my dream has finally come true on the nonprofit end of creating a desert in the creating an oasis of food in Chihuahuan Desert. And your inspiration of the Earthships was one of the first things I found when I decided that I wanted to help feed the community here in El Paso, Texas. And I do want to live in an Earthship. I've actually been up there and did a tour, and I would love to spend the night in one of those. as an Airbnb guest. And I just want to say that you're like my rock star. You're a huge fan. I feel like I'm talking to Bono on YouTube. Talking to Bono from, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
From YouTube, the group. That's what you stand for me. And I've been following your work for many years and have only been able to dream to actually talk to you. And I just want to say thank you, thank you, thank you. You're an angel. And please don't stop. Please don't.
Thank you, and I won't.
Have you been compared to Bono before?
No, that's a first.
So, thank you, JT. That is incredibly sweet. We do have Cindy Williams who also wants to say something.
Yes, this is just on the water. I know there's so many times we have blocks, like, the electric company doesn't really want us to get solar or these materials. But El Paso, we only get 6 to 8 inches of water a year, but we can collect a lot of water from our roofs. We have a water barrel in the back, and there's so much water that gets wasted in this desert. Even though these aren't designed like the Earthships, we can at least just take the water from our roofs and collect those into water barrels and then use those. That's one way that we can that was just a comment to, what can we do now if we're not quite ready to move?
But, well, let me elaborate on that a little bit.
Please.
When you get into the actual course we have on the water collection, excuse me, the water is collected from the roof, stored in cisterns.
Right.
But then we run it through the botanical cells after the shower, and we recollect it. And we use that cleaned up water, not to drink, because it's not clean enough to drink, but it's clean and clear. And we use that to flush our toilets. So we flush our toilet with our used shower water. That makes your 6 to 8 inches of precipitation a year, which is the same as ours. That makes your 6 to 8 inches become 12 to 14 inches,
Right.
And that's kind of starting to be enough. And so there's more to it than that, but we're basically reusing the water 4 times actually. And that is something you can do immediately, is start collecting and storing the water in cisterns, and then using that water for landscaping, we have a whole filtration device that makes it so you can use it for flushing your toilet. And you can certainly flush your toilet with used water. And it gets very easy to do when you, again, like I said previously, understand these concepts and how we apply them to Earthships. It gives you a clue of how to apply it to your own home. And that's the education aspect of it, for people to know what's possible for us to pave this yellow brick road out there for people to walk down.
Thank you. Before we move on to a question from Patricia, I want to remind everybody, either tuning in later, watching the recording, or who's live right now, don't forget Green Hope Project. We have an essay contest for you to actually go to the academy. And so you write about why you should be the one chosen, and Green Hope Project will send you to one of the Earthship academies for 4 weeks to learn about how to build. So FYI, the way you'll find out about that is sign up for our newsletter. We're going to send that out in May. So sign up for that. Patricia, did you want to ask Michael your question?
Okay, a couple questions I had is that I want to know, what is the difference between tire bales when they go and they compress the tires, and the pounding of the tires for the tire walls? Because I noticed that there are some entities, or I think they're entities, or some people who prefer the compressed tires that are put in bales. Where they get those from, I don't know.
Well, a lot of places bale tires. The bales, here's the thing. Our use of our things that we try to use, we're kind of guided by anything that is available all over the world. In other words, we go all over the world. People are all over the world. We can't get a tire baler all over the world. There's one
Of course.
question right there. But all over the world, we can gather a tire and punch dirt into it, because dirt is all over the world and tires are all over the world. So there's one reason right there. The other reason is you need mechanical equipment to bale tires. You need mechanical equipment to even move the bale. We want something that people can do with their own hands. They can place a tire down there, they can punch dirt into it, and they can do another one and another one and another one, brick by brick, step by step. They have a home. So just logically, it is more user-friendly for us using tires rather than tire bales. Then compacted earth inside the tire is more dense. And the more dense matter you have, the more heat it holds. The bale has a lot of air spaces, and it's not quite as good, not near as good as rammed earth. See, a pounded tire building, they call them radially reinforced rammed earth bricks in Australia. That building is much more dense and easier to do than a tire bale attempt. And so it's just many, many reasons that make it easier and more logical for us to do here in New Mexico and all over the world. So that the tire bales have not presented themselves as a viable option for us.
Okie doke, thank you. I feel smart now, because just logically, not everybody has access to tire bales or the machinery to create them. So that was my thought. Second question I have is, can a wall of pinion be attached to an Earthship, or must it be a standalone structure?
Both. I tend to want to attach everything to the Earthship, because the Earthship is a source of warmth, and it helps keep the wall of pinion warmer. And you know, I like being able to walk down my hallway and pick a tomato, or I like in the morning, yes, I walk down my hallway and pinch off dinosaur kale and put it in a smoothie type drink. So I like living with my plants like I was in a forest almost. I live with my plants. That way I can keep them healthier and just reach out and get them. So I like the combination of all of this, making a home for me and my plants, that we live together and grow together, and having them separate doesn't facilitate that.
Agreed. All right. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for everything.
Thank you.
Thank you. We have a question from Zulema Macias.
Okay. I was wondering if, if you know anything about the studies that have been done on the toxicity of tires on the soil for, I guess, for mostly for edible vegetables, but also, I guess, just in general.
Well, there's a whole study that we have. I think it used to be on our website. I don't know if it still is. It's a very thick study done by a physicist. Now, the bottom line is he ran water through shredded tires and air and everything. And it turns out his major statement was, after he did new tires and old tires. Now, his point was that old tires have lost 80 to 90% of their off-gassing, they call it. They've lost that on the road. So you go into a new tire store full of new tires, you smell tires. You go into and especially if they're in the sun, you go into an Earthship that's full of used tires covered with mud plaster, from an 1.5 inches to 9 inches thick. They're essentially buried. And so you don't smell anything. And he also said that after doing his study of running air and water through tires, he said that that living in an Earthship, a tire building, was about as dangerous as eating a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. And so that, there's a lot of danger there in a peanut butter and jelly sandwich if it's on white bread and so on. But he brought about another very important point. Look around you in the room you're in right now. There are carpets, there are drapes, there are laminates, there is plywood, there are glues. He pointed out that those things actually do more off-gassing than an old used tire behind a mud wall. And then we found that to be true because we had a client in Colorado who was the permit official was making them jump through hoops for their permit. And it took them over a year. And finally, they just couldn't wait any longer. They said they're still going to build an Earthship, but they have to get on their land immediately. And they bought one of those manufactured houses, brought it in and stacked it on concrete blocks. And they had to get a permit for that. And they got the permit for that in 3 hours. But they had to sign a waiver. And the waiver was that they will not let any infants or elderly in the building for 6 months due to the off-gassing of the new materials. So it is a non-issue. The off-gassing of automobile tires in a building is a non-issue. If they're it's better to put them into a building and plaster over it than to bury them in the ground. And so it's better to use them. And it turns out that a tire is, if anything, less dangerous than 75% of the materials around you in your room right now.
Great, thank
That's
you.
scary.
Yeah, I know. Now I'm uncomfortable going to bed tonight.
I don't want to breathe the air in my house. Sorry,
Yeah.
thank you, Mike.
Well, the thing is, we tend to think things are bad because we have labeled them garbage.
Right.
We tend to think human waste is bad because it's sewage. See, to me, human waste is gold. Garbage is gold. It's a matter of alchemy, and this is not woo-woo. Garbage. It's not woo-woo ideas. This is logical biology and physics. Alchemy, turning garbage into building materials and turning human waste into fertile soil, is what goes on this planet.
That's true. I've gotten that question too about the concern for the tires and also the concern of the use of plastic. But like you said, we're surrounded by plastic anyway. Okay, and then we have another question in the chat. It says, can Adobe be poured into the tire, or is pounding better, making it better to use?
The very first attempt I had at using tires, I stacked them up like lifesavers and poured Adobe into them. But that fell over. And so I started lacing the tires together like blocks and beating and stuffing the dirt into them. And then I later started beating the dirt into them. So yes, it is better to beat the dirt in than to pour it. Pouring Adobe is not as dense, it's more porous. Whereas you beat dirt to 90% compaction, you got more dense matter, and more dense matter holds more temperature.
If, for example, say Green Hope Project wanted to do a build and we wanted to make a school, or we wanted to go help our neighbor in Mexico, right? I know you guys do some builds that help communities for certain things. Is that normal, or is there application process, or is that just, does it depend?
No, we usually do. Of course, during COVID, we had two attempts canceled due to people not being able to fly, et cetera, but that's all going away now. But we usually do a couple of projects a year where we fund the labor and the airplane tickets with our student body. And the people have to have land. They have to have materials or access to money to buy those materials from their own nonprofit. And they have to have the permit issue resolved one way or the other. All of these things we can provide guidance on. And then we come in with all the labor for free and the design for free. And if the building is to be given away as a nonprofit humanitarian project, we don't do this for people for their own home.
Right.
and we get a lot of people asking us to. But so once or say twice a year, we go out after a hurricane or a tornado or something, and do this. And so you do apply through the academy, through the academy office of Earthship, and but you must have those three things in place: land, permission, and funding for your materials. And then when you've got that, we look at that relative to what other places are asking us. For instance, one we're doing now, and we're going back many times, is a school in Haiti, and on an island off the coast of Haiti, actually, and it's working. We didn't need a permit. The woman owned the land. She keeps coming up with money for materials. We're going to keep sending students. I showed a picture of it. We went down for a month and did an academy there and got one room of the schoolhouse usable and ready. And so we do that and twice a year, and it's then we want to train other people to do it. See, so that we're a small company. We only have about 40 or 50 employees. We can't do everything we want to do, so we're trying to make it like a virus so that other people can learn to do this, do it in their country, et cetera, et cetera.
I think Green Hope Project might be applying pretty soon. And then that kind of segues into the last question that I personally had, which was, I'm anxious about trying to get the permits and work with the counties. And I just feel like I don't even know where to begin. And I know that you probably fought the good fights in your areas. And I'm just kind of thinking like, I don't even know where to start. Well,
I understand it. The barriers between humans and housing are huge and getting more huge. I mean, it's incredible. It's even difficult to get a permit for a conventional house these days. But looking back, you've seen pictures. We have Earthships all over the world. Somehow we managed. Every case it's a case by case situation. We're working on a permit in Philadelphia right now. I think we'll get it, but it won't be as fast as we want it, but we'll get it. I think that we do have experience at doing this. And so it's kind of a thing where if we decide to do a project, we help with the permit. We work through with presentations. We've done everything from presentations to meeting to providing documents, et cetera, education, and just doing it. Sometimes it's smart just to do it and shoot first, ask questions later. For instance, in Puerto Rico, the company that wanted to fund us, they didn't want to fund us until we had a permit. So we didn't wait for their funding. We did it. We built the building in 8 hits over 2 years. It's done. It's finished.
Okay.
And so there's nothing stopping. In certain places you can just go for it. In other places you go up before the county commission and you go before the permit office. And I will say one thing. A decade ago, this was really laborious. Now, these days, after COVID, after all the people in really dire straits after these few storms that hit the Midwest in this country, all the authorities are going, well, anything that can help us out, we'll look at. They're not so closed-minded as they used to be. It's like I liken it to the people on the Titanic who were up in the upper rich, fancy class on the upper decks. They wouldn't set foot in a lifeboat with the poor people down below until the Titanic started sinking. And it was there, get in the boat with a poor person or die in the ice-coated waters of the Atlantic. They got in the boat. And so that's the way we're looking at it now is the worse things get on this planet, and they are getting worse and worse, people are saying we must break out of the corral that we have put ourselves in and evolve.
Yes. So, okay. So I can reach out to somebody from the Earthship Academy and they can maybe help talk me through some of that. I mean, I'll do research on my own end, but if we come into a snag, we can get advice.
Yeah. And especially if we take it on as a project, then we work with everybody on trying to make it happen.
Yeah.
So permitting, don't look at permitting as a stumbling block. Look at it as a hill you have to climb and go over. But I mean, it is for your regular person. You know, you've got permitting and realtors and bankers and lawyers and more permitting and appraisers and surveyors, and you just got a mountain of crap between you and getting a home. We're trying to tear that mountain down.
No, it makes absolute sense. Like it just makes sense. Our vision is to have Green Hope Project have the headquarters be an Earthship, so that we can have people come visit it and be educated about it, and it can be an art gallery and education center. So I think that leads us into the last question, Michael. You mentioned you do a lot of service projects. Where can people go to donate to help you with those endeavors so that you can pay for that stuff?
We have a nonprofit called Biotecture Planet Earth, and it has a presentation of all of our current projects. So people have a choice of donating to any one of the current projects, or they can just donate in general. Right now, we are working on a project in Puerto Rico, and a school in Puerto Rico and a school in Haiti, as well as a visitor center type thing in Philadelphia. So donating always helps, you know. It simply goes to one of the projects, and there's very little overhead in our nonprofit, and it is aimed at just doing everything we can toward getting it out there, making this available to all people. So Biotecture Planet Earth is our nonprofit.
Perfect. Okay, guys. I mean, if you like what they do, which I'm sure you do, because I'm looking at all the comments in the chat. I mean, like you said in that video, every penny goes towards actually helping. And Michael, I don't know if you're really able to look at the chat, but what's happening right now is people are collaborating in the chat about moving forward and working on this. So this is super cool about doing builds together. So guys, I'm so sorry, but we are out of time. If you had any questions, we can always reach out to them directly. And so thank you guys for coming. Michael, thank you so much for this. We really appreciate it. And thank you for everything you do. I mean, I'm just reiterating what everybody in the chat is saying. But again, guys, if you have more questions, you can reach out to Earthship directly. If you have not stayed in one, they have Airbnb. Go do it. Taos, New Mexico, not that far from El Paso. Check it out. Thank you so much, Michael. We appreciate it.
Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
This was wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Reynolds. Thank you.
And guys, if you're still listening, don't forget, you can apply to go to the Academy with Michael Reynolds for 4 weeks. Sign up for a newsletter. We'll send out the essay contest details soon, okay? Thanks, guys. Have a great Saturday.